아무래도 연습을 할 때는 이제 생각과 고민을 많이 하는 반면에 무대에서 연주할 때는 정말 머릿속을 비우고 아무 생각도 안 하려고 하는 것 같아요. 무대에서는 자유롭게 콩쿨 무대도 저만의 독주라고 생각하는 자세를 가지려고 하고 있어요. 사실 바이올린과는 거의 제 인생의 대부분을 같이 해왔기 때문에 저를 힘들게 할 때도 많지만 제가 가장 사랑하고 아끼는 존재입니다. 작곡가가 전달하고 싶은 메시지와 또 제 자신이 관객들에게 전달하고 싶은 메시지를 모두 다 설득력 있게 잘 전달할 수 있는 그런 연주자가 되고 싶습니다.
Millennial and Gen Zs are reshaping the world. News generation shares their fresh perspectives on what's trending now. From global developments to everyday culture, we're diving into the stories that matter. This is News Generation.
Global heritage will unite. We share brilliant values and honor the world's most cherished legacies to pass our heritage on to future generations. Busan invites you, the 48th session of UNESCO World Heritage Committee, July 2026, Busan, Korea.
In our headlines on this Monday, January 12th, here in South Korea, Trade Minister Han Byung-do is in the US to address concerns over e-commerce platform Coupang's data leak, as well as a recently revised Korean law that seeks to tackle false information online. Meanwhile, North Korea's Kim Yo-jong, the sister of the regime's leader Kim Jong-un, demands an explanation over what she claims was a recent drone intrusion into the regime's airspace. And Netflix summer sensation K-pop Demon Hunters wins the 2026 Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature, while the soundtrack, Golden, garners the award for Best Original Song. Trade Minister Han Byung-do is in the US to address concerns there over the government's handling of the massive leak of personal data by e-commerce platform Coupang, as well as a recent revision to South Korea's digital law. Our Park Junan has details.
South Korea's Trade Minister Han Byung-do, who is currently in the United States, said Sunday that the massive data breach at Coupang should be separated from trade or diplomatic issues. He added that the core problem lies in the large-scale personal information leak at Coupang and the company's inadequate response.
The core issue is the massive data breach at Coupang and the inadequate response that followed. Since the matter is being handled impartially and fairly, it should be addressed separately from trade or diplomatic issues.
Speaking to reporters upon arrival at Washington Dulles International Airport, Yo emphasized that the Korean government is not targeting or discriminating against any specific American company, including Coupang. Yo's visit comes amid ongoing U.S. concerns over Korea's digital barriers, including from the U.S. House Appropriations Committee and the Department of State. The U.S. Department of State late last year criticized a South Korean anti-disinformation bill, saying the amendment to the Network Act negatively impacts the business of U.S.-based online platforms and undermines free expression. The House Appropriations Committee warned in September that the Act on Promotion of Information and Communications Network Utilization and Information Protection, which was under review at the time, could amount to disparate treatment against American technology firms and could give China an advantage. To address the concerns, Yo said he will conduct extensive outreach during his visit, during meetings with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, key lawmakers, and industry groups to explain the Korean government's intent. 박준환, Arirang News.
On the local political front, three-term lawmaker Han Byung-do has been elected as the new floor leader of the ruling Democratic Party. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun reports.
South Korea's ruling Democratic Party has elected a new floor leader and 3 new members of its Supreme Council, following an internal shakeup that triggered an early leadership vote. After a competitive race that went to a runoff, three-term lawmaker Han Byung-do emerged as the new floor leader on Sunday, defeating fellow three-term lawmaker Baek Hae-ryun in the final round of voting. Han will serve out the remainder of his term, which runs until May, though the party has left open the possibility of a short extension to cover the June local elections. The party held a by-election to fill the vacancy left by former floor leader Kim Byung-gi, who stepped down amid allegations involving political donations and internal misconduct. His resignation left the powerful parliamentary post vacant months before the end of its original term, forcing the party to move up the election. The timing makes the role especially significant. The new floor leader will steer the party through negotiations on high-profile special prosecutor bills, including probes related to religious groups and broader corruption allegations, while also preparing for the June 3rd local elections. In his acceptance speech, Han pledged to push forward key reform and livelihood bills at speed, while supporting the success of the Lee administration. He also signaled a dual-track approach towards the opposition, open to dialogue but firm against what he called obstructionist politics.
From this moment on, I will swiftly bring a year of turmoil under control and urgently move to end the insurrection, reform the prosecution and the judiciary, and improve people's livelihoods.
Alongside the floor leader vote, the Democratic Party also held a by-election to fill 3 vacant seats on its Supreme Council, left open by members stepping down to run in the local elections. Lawmakers Kang, Lee Sung-yoon and Moon Jung-bok were elected, with results reflecting a closely watched balance between different factions within the party. With both parliamentary leadership and the Supreme Council reshaped, attention now turns to whether the Democratic Party can stabilize internal divisions and maintain momentum ahead of the June polls. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
And President Ejae has called on religious communities to help foster national unity. Speaking at a New Year's luncheon with leaders from major religious groups at the Blue House on this Monday, the president urged them to help promote harmony and inclusivity by putting into practice the teachings on love. Pointing out that dispute, disdain and discrimination are deepening nationwide, President acknowledged that while unity and solidarity are his priority, there are limits to what he alone can achieve. The Culture Ministry is setting aside 43 billion Korean won, or over $29 million this year, to nurture 3,400 AI-related professionals to help keep pace with the dramatic changes in the global content industry. The ministry will work with the Korea Creative Content Agency to foster talent with expertise in AI-powered production to strengthen K-content ranging from music to dramas to movies to webtoons. North Korea has called on South Korea to clarify an alleged drone intrusion into its airspace. Our Ejae explains.
Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, is demanding an explanation from South Korea over what Pyongyang claims were drone incursions into its airspace. In a statement carried by North Korean state media on Sunday, Kim said drones flying from the Republic of Korea violated the North's sovereignty. Her comments came after South Korea's defense ministry denied that its military was responsible, saying the drones may have been launched by civilian groups. Kim welcomed that denial, but said Seoul must still explain what she called an actual drone that crossed into North Korean territory. She warned that any future flights, regardless of who launches them, would bring serious consequences. She also claimed video recovered from the drones showed sensitive North Korean sites, including a uranium mine, the Kaesong Industrial Complex, and border guard posts, which she said proves the drones came from the south. The comments come as North Korea's military claimed that a drone was detected on January 4th, flying north from Gangwon-do Island near Incheon and was forced down near Kaesong using an electronic warfare system. Pyongyang says the drone was carrying surveillance equipment. It also claims another drone flew from Paju in late September, crossed into North Korea, passed over Kaesong, and was brought down by an electronic attack system. The North says that the aircraft carried nearly 6 hours of video footage. Pyongyang also accused Seoul of hostile provocations while talking about dialogue and warned that such actions would not go unpunished. South Korea's defense ministry has rejected the claims, saying an initial investigation shows the drones were not operated by the South Korean military and that no military drones were flown on the dates cited. Defense Policy Chief Kim Hong-chul said authorities are now investigating whether the drones could have been operated by civilians. He added that Seoul has no intention of provoking North Korea and will continue efforts to reduce tensions and build trust between the two sides. 이승재, Arirang News.
In related news, pundits here believe the drones that North Korea claims came from South Korea were civilian crafts. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung reports.
Aside from the Defense Ministry's claims that South Korean drone infiltrations were not a military operation, experts say a civilian drone was likely involved after considering the pictures released by the North. The drone reportedly matches the Skywalker Titan 2160 model, commonly used by ordinary people that can be purchased through overseas platforms.
They used regular commercial parts, not military ones. The design is very vulnerable to jamming or other means of bringing drones down. It's not military equipment at all, just for civilian use. In fact, it's almost the same as models that anyone can easily order from Chinese online shopping sites.
Pyongyang claimed South Korean drone infiltrations were first made in September last year and then in January. Another expert says we need to note the timing of the regime having brought up the issue, right after the EC summit to show that the regime is against China playing a role to ease the tensions, and just before the 9th Party Congress to strengthen internal unity.
Since South Korea is asking China to become a mediator, North Korea may be hinting that it does not want to respond or cooperate. Also, domestically, North Korea prefers tension between the two Koreas to support its view that they are hostile states, rather than trying to improve relations.
With the North Korean leader's sister Kim Yo-jong having warned that South Korean authorities must provide a clear explanation, the possibility of talks between the two Koreas is very unlikely, the expert added.
When a message like this is released through Kim Yo-jong, it's less about creating a positive turning point and more about neutralizing South Korea's peace efforts.
With Seoul's aim to come up with momentum to resume dialogue with Pyongyang before Trump visits China in April, eyes are on how the North will respond to the South's investigation results that will come out in the future. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
In other news, reports of a ruthless campaign against protesters in Iran by their government are fueling fears of a potential hostile intervention by the Trump administration against the Iranian leadership. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
More than 500 people have died in the ongoing unrest in Iran. According to the US-based rights group HRANA, this toll includes 490 protesters and 48 security personnel, with more than 10,600 people arrested over the past 2 weeks. Considering all means of communication have been down, another Iranian rights activist group said some sources have claimed that more than 2,000 have died. While these figures have not been independently verified, the violence has prompted a scheduled meeting on Tuesday between U.S. President Donald Trump and senior advisors to discuss options ranging from cyber weapons to military strikes.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
President Trump also claimed that Iranian leadership has reached out to negotiate, sensing the pressure. However, he warned that the U.S. may be forced to act before any talks can take place if the violence against civilians doesn't stop immediately. This marks a significant shift from the administration's earlier stance of moral support to now weighing up direct action. Tehran has responded with immediate threats of its own. Iranian officials warned that if the U.S. launches any attack, U.S. bases in the region and Israel will be considered legitimate targets for retaliation. Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf has said that the country is ready for a full-scale war if provoked. Despite these threats and the severe risk of arrest or death, Iranians continue to take to the streets. The demonstrations began 2 weeks ago, sparked by the collapse of the Iranian rial and rising living costs. These economic protests have since expanded, with demonstrators calling for a change in leadership. It is against this backdrop that the U.S. has warned of potential military intervention if the crackdown continues. With the opposition groups reporting significant casualties and the U.S. president confirming that strong options are being reviewed, attention is now on how the Iranian government will respond to both the internal dissent and the external pressure. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, on the entertainment front, Netflix sensation K-pop Demon Hunters is taking home 2 honors from the 83rd Golden Globe Awards in LA this past Sunday. Our culture correspondent Park Gonu has the highlights.
And it was. This comes as Netflix's mega-hit movie K-pop Demon Hunters scored a double win at the 83rd Golden Globe Awards held in Los Angeles on Sunday local time. In the Best Animated Feature category, the film competed against titles including Zootopia 2, one of the highest-grossing releases in Walt Disney Animation Studios history. Accepting the award, director Maggie Kang spoke with her voice trembling with emotion.
Thank you to the Golden Globes and for everyone who believed that a movie so deeply rooted in Korean culture could resonate with a global audience.
The main song from the film's official soundtrack, Golden, also beat out competing songs from major releases, including Wicked for Good and Avatar Fire and Ash. Singer-songwriter Ejae burst into tears as she accepted the award, dedicating the honor to people who've had doors closed on them, encouraging them never to give up.
It's a dream come true to be part of a song that is helping other girls, other boys, and everyone from all ages to get through their hardship and to accept themselves. So thank you, Golden Globes, for accepting my voice and our voice.
The wins marked a double victory, though the film fell short of a third award in the Cinematic and Box Office Achievement category. Korean film No Other Choice was nominated in 3 categories, including Best Non-English Film and Best Male Actor, but did not secure a win. Still, one expert says the wins by K-pop Demon Hunters are truly significant in themselves.
The film has been a global phenomenon. The movie, along with the soundtrack song Golden, has topped numerous charts in a way unmatched by other films. It has also sparked countless cover videos and memes, influencing even people who haven't seen the movie itself.
She added that while the Golden Globe wins do not guarantee success at the Academy Awards, the film's strong critical reception and global popularity will be considered similarly, suggesting it could remain as a serious contender. And with that in mind, expectations are building for further success for Korean cinema and the upcoming Oscars in March. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
In our interview segment today, we revisit South Korea's partnership with the European Union across many fronts, including security, amid a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. Our senior correspondent Oh Seong sat down with the EU ambassador based here in Seoul.
Seoul and Brussels face greater strategic challenges in 2026, rendering value-based cooperation more crucial than ever. That's according to Europe's top envoy in Seoul, Ambassador Ugo Astuto, speaking with Arirang News.
Well, I think it's absolutely essential that two like-minded democracies and advanced economies such as the EU and Korea work together. As I said earlier, we are facing headwinds in the international scene. So that's a moment where friends and partners need to come together. And we do. I'm glad to say we do.
A veteran European diplomat, Astuto took up his post in Seoul last year after holding senior Asia-Pacific roles at both the European External Action Service and Italy's Foreign Ministry. In his outlook for the new year, Astuto points first to security as the major common challenge ahead.
And when it comes to security interests, we're seeing boundaries are really blurring when it comes to common security interests for the Euro-Atlantic region and the Indo-Pacific region as well. And in terms of North Korea and Russia's military collaboration, how concerned are you and how far do you think it could potentially go?
Look, we are very concerned. This security nexus, which is getting stronger by the day. When you look at the support that North Korea has been offering to Russia and its aggression against Ukraine, we all know that North Korea is getting something in return. Economic support, energy, foodstuff, and I sense military technology. We don't know how far Russia can go, but we all know that Russia doesn't have many scruples in that respect. So I think we have reasons to be concerned, and we have reason to try to monitor together this development and to try to mitigate the consequences, not just in the peninsula but worldwide. It's already the strategic concept, the NATO strategic concept of 2022.
He noted Seoul and Brussels are already strengthening their response.
We have a strategic partnership since a number of years, and we have a collaboration which is broad and broadening. Last year, actually in 2024, we signed a security and defense partnership. We are working on that to expand it, to cover a number of very relevant grounds from cybersecurity, foreign information manipulation, interference. And we work together to uphold the multilateral system of international governance.
Shared concerns also extend to economic security. Korea and the EU have set up a working group on emerging economic issues.
Indeed, over the past few years, we have seen economic coercion becoming the norm rather than the exception. Most recently with rare earths, raw materials in general terms. Again, as advanced democracy, we must have reliable supply chains in place, and this means that we can work together at de-risking, for instance, making sure that we have a reliable network of suppliers in place when it comes to raw materials, to those essential items which will be key for the fourth industrial revolution, which are already proving key for the most innovative parts of our economies.
Astuto is working to tighten cooperation in strategic sectors, particularly technology and innovation, given Korea's participation in the EU's €9.5 billion Horizon Research Programme.
And I'm really very happy to congratulate Korea for its joining as a full associate member. It's the first Asian country to do so. I think it's fair to say that particularly in the green and digital transition we can do much. These are the aspects which are most relevant for the transformation of our economies in the coming years. There are topics such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing.
Climate cooperation is another key sector for Astuto.
We see, based on most estimates, that we're not going to respect the targets set in Paris unless we all make collectively a genuine additional effort. And again, I think Korea and the European Union can be pioneers in that respect.
At a time of accelerating change, Astuto says the moment now calls for renewed momentum in cooperation.
We organized not so long ago in Brussels the 4th edition of the Indo-Pacific Forum. And I'm happy to say that Korea is one of the major participants of this gathering. It's about discussing how we can together foster, well, respect for the UN Charter, first of all, but also development, connectivity, sustainable development, how to work together against climate change, against the challenge of pollution, of biodiversity loss. So quite a number of common challenges that we can address together. And all of this is relevant for the work of the team here and myself personally.
Based on strong frameworks and agreements, the ambassador says his mission in Seoul is to ensure that the Korea-EU partnership operates at its full potential. 오수영, Arirang News.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your tenure here.
It felt colder this morning than it did yesterday, but the cold wasn't as harsh during the day. However, colder air will make a return tonight and temperatures will stay below freezing all day tomorrow. The cold spell will continue through Wednesday morning before temperatures started to rise again in the afternoon. Rain or snow is expected mainly around the central areas today, and most of it will have stopped by early tomorrow morning. You need to be careful out on the roads as rain and snow may make them slippery. Seoul will start off at -4 degrees tomorrow morning, Chuncheon at -6 degrees. Daily highs will top out at only -2 degrees in Seoul, 4 degrees in Chuncheon, Daegu, and Gyeongju. Dry weather warnings remain in place for the eastern parts of the country, and strong wind warnings are also in place for eastern regions. Please take extra precautions. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. So do stay with us and thank you for now.
저는 만 5살에 바이올린을 시작했는데요. 바이올린 소리를 워낙 좋아했어서 그 특유의 따뜻함과 약간 사람의 목소리 같은 목소리를 갖고 있거든요, 바이올린이. 나왔을 때보다는 이제 혼자 연습할 때 더 큰 희열을 느끼는데 제가 표현하고자 하는 음악이 잘 나왔을 때 그때 가장 큰 기쁨을 느끼는 것 같아요. 그래서 저만의 색깔을 어떻게 하면 찾아갈 수 있을까 그걸 제일 많이 고민하는 것 같아요. 아무래도 연습을 할 때는 이제 생각과 고민을 많이 하는 반면에 무대에서 연주할 때는 정말 머릿속을 비우고 아무 생각도 안 하려고 하는 것 같아요. 무대에서는 자유롭게 콩쿨 무대도 저만의 독주라고 생각하는 자세를 가지려고 하고 있어요. 사실 바이올린과는 거의 제 인생의 대부분을 같이 해왔기 때문에 저를 힘들게 할 때도 많지만 제가 가장 사랑하고 아끼는 존재입니다. 작곡가가 전달하고 싶은 메시지와 또 제 자신이 관객들에게 전달하고 싶은 메시지를 모두 다 설득력 있게 잘 전달할 수 있는 그런 연주자가 되고 싶습니다.
The Trump administration has destabilized Venezuela, is demanding Greenland, and has denounced NATO. With more on Press Perspective today. Hope your work week is off to a good start. It's Monday, January 12th here in Seoul. I'm in Sanhee. The Trump administration's foreign policy is causing concern in the international arena amid its assertive campaign in the name of security. For more on this reality, I have Chloe Bogno with French broadcaster France 24 here in the studio. Chloe, hope you had a great weekend.
It was very nice. I hope yours was good too.
Thank you so much. I also have Professor Pan Gil-chu at the Korea National Diplomatic Academy with us. Professor Pan, as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hello, good to be with you.
Lovely. We shall start here in the studio. Chloe, let's begin with US President Donald Trump's renewed territorial claim over Greenland. So what has he been saying?
So as of last Friday, actually, he said that this time he was speaking about national security, saying that the United States should have Greenland. It was interesting to see that he was at a meeting with oil and gas executive at the White House that he made this claim. He said something like, I'm going to quote him, "We're going to be doing something with Greenland, either the nice way or the more difficult way." And the second part of the sentence has been raising concern lately because the truth is, the Trump administration has never ruled out any armed operation to get Greenland. They have not said that they would send the army, but when asked the question, they have never ruled it out yet. So that's what is getting probably the European especially the most concerned about. Is also being saying that if it was not for the United States, then Russia or China would be the one coming in and to seize Greenland. And Donald Trump said that he doesn't want them as a neighbor. Even so, I mean, through the Bering Strait on the other side, they are already neighbored with Russia. But it's just one of the arguments he's been putting on the table. I mean, he's been speaking about getting Greenland since 2019, so the first mandate, where he kind of had the idea publicly, but there he had no backup. People were not okay with that. But through the time, he's been speaking that it was either a strategic location needed for the US or also the fact that there is a mineral wealth in the Greenland that the United States might need for their industry. And that's not this time that he chose to speak about it, but it's been recurring in the last weeks or so when he's been speaking about Greenland.
So what has Greenland and Denmark been saying in response to his demands for that particular piece of land?
Well, once again, there've been like really strong opposition from both. So Greenland is one of the countries that is in the Danish kingdom. So they both have their word to say about what the United States is talking about. If we take Denmark, the Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, she said that it made absolutely no sense and that the United States had no right to try and annex Greenland. Denmark has also been reminding Donald Trump that actually the two countries are allies, especially in a very strategic part of the world, that is the Arctic. And they're saying that, they're reminding him that the two countries are working together for peace in Arctic region and that it should not be forgotten so quickly by the United States. Greenland Prime Minister himself said that the Greenland is not for sale, and it's also something that's been quite reminded in all the media is people from Greenland would like independence from Denmark, but they don't want to get under the power of the United States. Recently, a poll does just say that 85% of Greenlanders do not want to be a part of the United States.
Right, 85% do not want to be a part of the United States. That being said, Professor Ban, for the sake of perspective and before we delve any deeper, do tell us briefly why Greenland is a part of Denmark.
Well, thousands of years ago, Inuit peoples who migrated from North America settled in Greenland. In the meantime, as time went by, European powers have begun their interventions in Greenland. Denmark's claim over Greenland in the modern era traces back to the 18th century when Denmark remained an influential power in Europe. In particular, Denmark began its claim over Greenland in 1721 when Danish arrived there for missionary and trade. Denmark has controlled and governed Greenland as a colony over the last 2 centuries since then. Meanwhile, Denmark's colonial control over Greenland ended in 1953 when Denmark revised its constitution thanks to the efforts of decolonization by the United Nations. So Greenland became one of the Danish counties, not a colony of the Kingdom of Denmark. Although Greenland got out of a colony, Denmark maintained hostile policies against the Inuit peoples, such as cultural integration, which drew criticism not only locally, but also globally. The accumulated complaints led to the 1979 referendum for autonomy, which it turned out to establish home rule and Greenlandic parliament. Greenland automatic power has been stepped up through the 2009 Self-Government Act. So as of right now, Greenland belongs to Danish territory under Greenlanders' strong autonomy. In more detail, Greenlanders maintain their autonomy in areas like the justice system and policing, as well as education, culture, language, and national resources. And Denmark is in charge of diplomacy and defense.
Right now, despite that reality, Professor Pan, as Chloe mentioned earlier, the Trump administration claims that the US needs Greenland for national security. What does that mean?
Well, as first glance, Trump is concerned about the growing presence of Russia and China in Greenland and the Arctic Ocean. But the story does not end here. So we need to take a closer look at how national security is defined under the second Trump administration. the scope of national security is being expanded from hard security like military defense to national resource security, energy security, border security, anti-drug operations, and territorial expansion under the second Trump administration. In this vein, we need to figure out the logic or calculations behind Trump's remark on the need to acquire Greenland from the standpoint of national security. I would say that there are three major calculations. First, individual, second, business, and third, grand strategy. First of all, when it comes to Trump's individual characteristics, he is eager to be recognized as the most powerful president in American history. To that end, he wants to achieve differentiated outcomes from his predecessors. To Trump, Greenland remains unaddressed in the sense that earlier efforts like Truman's suggestion to buy Greenland with gold ended in failure. Second, Trump's business mentality can be explained by the motivation to take control of Greenland. He wants to maximize profit as a national level of businessman, even though his actions might violate international laws. Operation Absolute Reserve targeting Venezuela showed how Trump can take advantage of the concept of peace through strength for making a profit. Likewise, a massive amount of natural resources and the size of Greenland, similar to the United States territory, serve as a major driver for Trump to seize Greenland and make unprecedented profits. Third, most importantly, the Trump administration comes up with a mixed strategy based on the concept of onshore control and offshore balancing. The Trump administration has defined the Western Hemisphere as the most important domain through the 2025 National Security Strategy. In this vein, the onshore strategy is to seize the sphere of influence over the Western Hemisphere, including Latin America, Canada, and even Greenland. Simultaneously, the Trump administration is interested in offshore balancing in an aim to check the rise of China and Russia, which means the United States stays away from deeply engaging in remote areas like the Western Pacific, and instead it serves as an offshore balancer while asking its regional allies like Japan to be more responsible regarding their burden sharing. With this in mind, the Donald Doctrine, which is some pundits define as Trump's strategy, is not an exact term. I will say that Donald redesign is a more relevant terminology in the sense that the Trump administration attempts to revise the formula of international politics, and in doing so, it facilitates uncertainty in the transitional era.
Right, and speaking about uncertainty, there are quite a number of pundits, Chloe, who claim that Mr. Trump's latest threat against Greenland poses a potentially unprecedented challenge for NATO. Do tell us a bit more about these particular thoughts. And speaking as a French correspondent yourself, what more can you tell us about the concerns raised by France?
Yeah, so Denmark and Greenland itself are part of, and the United States as well, are all part of NATO. So NATO is a military cooperation that has been raised up after the Second World War to try to get all the allies to make sure that the alliance around the Atlantic Ocean was staying strong and trying to avoid any military problem with other countries. So the United States are the backbone of NATO. They were part of the ones who made it at first and are still today making it possible. We've talked about it quite a lot here in the studio about the United States are the one funding it, or the ones sending the most troops. And all of that makes that there will be a lot of concern about any United States withdrawal, what it could mean for NATO, and could the European nations work alone or not. So for now, it seems like it would not be possible. But one of the key principles of the NATO chart is the Article 5, saying that an attack against one of the members is an attack against all. The problem is, because this article needs the unanimity, if one of the members attacks another, in this case would be the United States attacking Greenland and Denmark, then it would not work anymore, and it kind of make an existential crisis for NATO. Obviously, we're not there yet, but that's what most of the pundits are worried about. And there's also France, for example, itself has made a joint statement with other countries on the 6th of January. They've been saying that Arctic security should be taken care of collectively by the member states of NATO. So that include Denmark, that include the United States. France is also going to to open a consulate in Greenland to show how much they care about Greenland independence and from the United States. That's something that the President Emmanuel Macron himself ordered. It's been talked about a few months ago, and then it's again yesterday was reactivated, kind of speeding up the process because of what President Donald Trump has been saying lately. It's also interesting to see, speaking about NATO, what President Donald Trump himself is saying, his point of view. So, as usual, we have to go on his social medias to see what he's talking about in his very signature style, like all capital letters, saying that Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States. So that's what he's been saying. And then he also said, I doubt NATO will be there for us if we really needed them. And there is actually making a reference to two things. The first one being the fact that other countries also have to pay up and put more money into their own armies to try and be in NATO and get to the level of the United States. He's been talking about that quite a lot, and not only with NATO, I mean with South Korea as well. And the other thing is Article 5, as I was saying, is an attack against one, is an attack against all the others. But when you look closely, it's actually saying that if an attack occurs, each of the members will take individually and in concert with others the action that it deems necessary. And I think that's also where he wants to be, saying, how much would the European countries really be ready to help the United States in case of a need for the Article 5?
Right. And beyond the concerns raised in Europe, Professor Pan, some observers also point out that the Trump administration's pursuit of Greenland has, and I'm quoting, has China on edge. Please do explain this belief for us, and do you share it?
Well, we need to take a snapshot of what's going on in great power politics to figure that out. The United States and China engage in a proxy war to seize the initiative of great power politics or strategic competition in multiple domains like the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and the Taiwan Strait. Recently, the proxy war zone has been expanded to the Arctic Ocean. In particular, the United States, as a status quo power, wants to make the Arctic Ocean and Greenland under its control. In the meantime, China seeks a proactive policy on the Arctic Ocean. China defines itself as a near-Arctic state and dispatches its Coast Guard ships to the Arctic Ocean. However, ironically, the key objectives on how to check China regarding Greenland and the Arctic Ocean do not seem harmonized between Trump himself and cabinet members or the mega group. Trump is more interested in natural resources like critical minerals and rare earth elements, rather than countering China militarily. To the contrary, MEGA is eager to counter China with all scenarios, including military use. This different perspective continues to go on in other areas, such as the Taiwan Strait. In this sense, the United States' strategy on China remains ambiguous and indecisive.
Right. Moving forward, Chloe, Mr. Trump's desire for the Danish territory of Greenland follows his recent capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. The U.S. leader also says that U.S. oversight over Venezuela might last years. What's the latest on that front?
Yeah, so if we come back to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, it was actually the largest U.S. intervention in Latin America since the Panama invasion in 1989. So just a quick reminder, was more than a week ago, no, last weekend, the United States strike on Venezuela, what they called a large-scale strike. And they captured the Venezuelan president and his wife, and they are accusing them of participating in narco-terrorism. So they have captured them, brought them back to the United States so that they could stand trial. There's been pressure for months from the United States on Venezuela regarding the fight against drugs. So let's remember that the United States have been targeting boats on the coast of Venezuela, saying that they were carrying drugs. They've also been intercepting some oil tankers that were going or leaving Venezuela. So shortly after the capture of Nicolas Maduro, Donald Trump said that the United States, all companies are going to be coming back to Venezuela to pump the oil. Even though he's been saying it himself now, it might take time because the oil sector in the country has been kind of let down, so it would need time and a lot of investment from the US to be able to get the sector back and up and running again. But I mean, it was one of the main, first things that he said in the coming hours after the strike from the US. He did an interview with the New York Times on Wednesday. That was kind of a very big and in-depth interview, and that's where he spoke about, when he was asked about the control of the country on the country by the United States. He actually said that the direct oversight by US administration could last for years. He was asked, would it last for weeks, months, a year? And he said probably more than that, but only time will tell. So he's obviously not giving any deadlines. It was kind of expected. But he also said that the country has already started to make money from the Venezuela, because the United States are going to be taking oil that has been under sanction so that they can sell this crude oil. And he's been kind of speaking about that. Also was another important point from the New York Times article, is he made no commitments about when election could take place in Venezuela, because at the moment the vice president is taking the place of the president elected. So that would be the next question. And on this point, he said that he could not make commitment about it.
Right. Professor Ban, broadly speaking, how does such foreign policy by the Trump administration look to affect his calls for peace elsewhere?
Well, obviously, that is not a good sign or message for the world peace. Or such an aggressive policy could lead to the massive rise of revisionist attempts all over the place in the world. Moreover, unpreventable rise of revisionist attempts could bring the Arab world to international politics. Well, the new Cold War is inherently defined as the transitional order, which means any scenarios are possible to growing uncertainty and instability. International rules are less observed in this transitional order, as shown by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Despite Russia's attempts to take away Ukraine's sovereignty by military power, a rules-based international order has not gone away entirely in international politics, because the West and like-minded coalitions have punished aggressors like Russia and made tremendous efforts to preserve a rules-based order and a liberal international order. These efforts have served as a final safeguard to prevent a rules-based order from entirely breaking down in international politics. However, as the United States, who used to serve as a leader for preserving a rules-based order and a liberal international order, rushes to act like Russia through an aggressive foreign policy. The final safeguard is tearing apart. The collapse of the final safeguard motivates potential revisionists to adopt more aggressive and more hostile options, including the use of military force, in their efforts to maximize their national interests, who pose grave threats to peace around the world.
Right, and on that grave note, I'm afraid we'll have to end today's discussion. Professor Ban, as always, thank you so much for your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Right, and Chloe here in the studio, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you.
Right, that ends Press Perspective today. Thank you for watching. We return same time tomorrow with a session on Seoul's second summit with Tokyo under the current administrations.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check